There's been another mass shooting in this country. It shouldn't be at all surprising to anyone who's been paying attention to America, but here we are. Um, this time it happened at MSU in East Lansing. So let me give you the details. Michigan State Police have reported that 3 people were killed in that mass shooting that happened on Monday on campus. 5 others were injured. They're at local hospitals in critical condition. All of the victims happen to have been MSU students, according to officials. The suspect, of course, was 43-year-old Anthony Dwayne McRae, who was also killed at the scene from a self-inflicted gunshot. So now, university police, they're looking for a motive. Not just university police, but the investigators police. They're all looking for a motive. So far, we don't have one. We don't know why it happened, but we do know the how, obviously. Now, he was not affiliated in any way with MSU, and so far, again, we have no motive. Again, we don't know why. We don't know why. But we do know that this is the 67th mass shooting that has happened this year. So, now look, we're just into February, okay? It's Valentine's Day, February 14th. There have been 67 mass shootings. That means that we have had more mass shootings in this country than we have had days in 2023. Huh. So, yeah.
USA, USA, USA.
What can I say? We're number one. We're number one. All right. So, look, what do we know about the shooter? Well, there's details coming out about the shooter. Police said in an investigation that McRae had a history of mental health issues, even though they did not elaborate. So I can't exactly point out any issue, but I do want to point out that just having a mental illness does not mean that you will become a mass shooter. So having a mental illness doesn't mean you're a mass shooter. Let's make that very, very clear, right? Now, he was apparently unemployed, socially isolated, lived with his parents until 2020. Of course, then he just lived with his father because he had lost his mother. According to his sister Melinda, he had often clashed with his parents while living there, and especially clashing with the mother. She died in 2020 of a stroke, and after that had happened, he completely went off the rails. Basically, he deteriorated in his mental state. Afterwards, she said that her brother before that was prone to transience and would go sporadically leave town, struggle to hold down jobs, go to different cities, and even live in shelters. So it seems like a very troubled individual. Then again, everybody, there's a lot of people that have undergone similar troubles. They don't go and grab guns and perform acts of mass violence. His father spoke to CNN on Tuesday morning and said that his son was bitter and angry, evil even, like angry to the point of being evil. And that he had stopped caring about himself, his life, his health, his appearance. Whenever he would suggest help, that he go see a doctor to get some help and assistance, he would refuse, get very angry, shut everyone out, and lock himself in his room. So now, did he have a history of violence? Not necessarily, no. Though he did have previous weapons charges. So now he had pleaded guilty back in 2019 of possession of a concealed weapon, a concealed firearm, without a permit. So he just didn't have a permit. Now he's sentenced to probation and was discharged from probation in May of 2021. And so, look, a lot of people online, specifically, have been right-wingers, have been pointing out that, like, oh, what a felony, why is he not in prison, why is he not in prison? Well, the reason he's not in prison, is, for one, it's, okay, he didn't have a permit. So who are the people that make sure that you don't have to have a permit to have a gun? Oh, right, Republicans. Yes, Republicans in Michigan have, when they were in power, loosened gun laws. Now, that said, it was still illegal in Michigan to, possess a firearm without a permit. And so, yes, he got arrested for that, and he got put on probation. And then, when he was done with his probation, there you go. He had a weapon. So now, it's funny because Michigan Democrats have been pushing for tighter gun control. Republicans constantly push back against that. And so there has been this, and by the way, Michigan had been, up until this last election cycle, been controlled mainly by Republicans, even with a Democratic governor. In this case, Whitmer. Republicans would still, hold majorities in the House and the Senate and be able to block legislation. And that's exactly what they did. After the Oxford shooting, you had Republicans blocking any gun control measures. So one of the bills that was blocked by Republicans was the safe storage package, which would require properly securing firearms to prevent accidental injury or death, where they could be accessible to minors. Okay, so now the motion was rejected and sent back to committee. There was also universal background checks on all gun sales, allowing local governments to ban guns on property they own or lease, and prohibiting selling or possessing a magazine capable of holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition. With some exceptions, all of those bills introduced in 2021, well, were all shut down. That's it. So you had that. And again, you also had Republicans that continued to, try to prevent anything from being passed in relation to gun violence. Now, that said, is there any one panacea to every single shooting? No, not necessarily. Like, you can't just say, like, oh, this particular law would have prevented this particular gun violence, and therefore you can't do anything. That's pretty ridiculous logic. Obviously, we know that not all gun control laws are going to stop all gun crimes. But if you can stop the vast majority of them, then I think you can call that a win. But apparently they do not feel the same way. And I'm talking about Republicans. So that's it. Okay. Look, there's more details, by the way. Now, McRae said that his son had a gun. Police had taken it away. And then he had somehow obtained another weapon. I don't know if it was legally or illegally. But he kept it in his room and denied to his father that he had it. And so that's what we know so far. So, look, without any more information about, motive or anything like that, it just feels random and senseless. Like somebody who needed help, but instead lashed out with a weapon. Got his hands on a gun. Now, police did find something else. There was a note in his pocket that showed that he was planning on doing more shootings, in this case going to New Jersey and targeting 2 different schools, 2 Ewing public schools specifically. Apparently he had local ties to that township, and so maybe that might be more personal. Maybe that was his overall goal. But again, it's a lot of speculation. But like I said, mass shootings, more senseless death, and really, I think we're all unfortunately used to it. We're all pretty desensitized to it. At least, when you're in the media, you cover this all the time. You hear all this news all the time. And mainly, the biggest thing that is the most frustrating and sad about the entire situation is the fact that we'll do nothing about it. So, look, we as a country are going to do nothing. The right says there's not enough guns. We need more guns. We need to loosen gun laws. And of course, they're already pointing out that, it's a black man. Black men. You know how violent they are. Why weren't they in prison? Weak prosecutors. Oh, that's what it is. George Soros, Marxism. And so you already see it in that dog whistling, right? Yeah, he's an African American man. That has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Honestly, it's immaterial in this case, but they'll still make it an issue. Look, the same thing is that they'll talk about mental health later on, but then we'll do nothing about ensuring that everybody has mental health. They'll propose hardening schools, which, hasn't been shown to be effective at all. And of course, the left is calling for gun control, which will not pass. Now, that said, the Biden administration is sending $231 million. Yes, that's million to states to enact things like red flag laws in places that have been enacted. But when it comes to anything like a national, gun control sort of, policy position, nothing is going to get through Congress. So there will not be a gun control package that will get through Congress. And at this point, with Republicans in control of the House and a very slim majority of Democrats in the Senate, we will see absolutely no action. Nothing. So there will either be no bill in Congress, nothing proposed on a national level, or if there somehow is one, it will fail. And then mainstream media, we will move on. Look, I hate to be pessimistic, right? But at this point, I'm being a realist. We're at this point in this country where we are paralyzed on the issue of guns. Now, look, I think a lot of it has to do with money in politics. As long as gun manufacturers and lobbying groups are allowed to spend unlimited amounts of money buying off politicians, nothing's going to get done. But of course, there's that angle, and then there's gun culture, where you have a few people who are fanatics that have made it part of their identity as guns, as people who enjoy guns, I should say. I don't know, maybe their pronouns are guns. Maybe that's the only pronoun that right-wingers want, is to identify as gun. Oh, God, here I am giving them ideas. But look, no, it has become, part of their identity to oppose anything, even as 90% of the country is like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Universal background check, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, limiting magazine size, well, that makes sense. But you have this minority that then, votes very, very regularly in Republican primaries and is very, very loud. And then you have the money, you have gun manufacturers, and you have groups like the NRA, lobbyists, that will bribe our politicians to make sure that they do nothing.